because Seth Rollins, halfway through, or three-quarters of the way through, it's towards the end, it was like a big crescendo, curb stomped a giant enemy crab. WrestleMania 36 is over. WrestleMania 36 is done. If you are a frequent watcher of my channel, usually know we would do this as a live stream, but for reasons we don't get into, today it's just a nice little on-demand video to throw at your face so you have got some content, as I did promise. And, you know, it's not a live stream, there's no one to interact with. I thought, what can I do just to have a... Because look, so many people are chatting about WrestleMania right now. I'm sure you're inundated with opinions. So I thought, well, it's YouTube. People love this stuff. I will take all the other bits that maybe nobody is talking about, and we'll have a little discussion about them too, of course. If you're watching this on a Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, 1 p.m. GMT, we'll talk about all the big bits. But yeah, here's 10 awesome things from WrestleMania 36 that nobody is talking about. Number 10 is the opening video package. Now, I know most people are talking about this, and I actually know at the time, many people responded to one of the segments that happened within said video package, but I feel like it needs more of a focus, more of a spotlight put on it, because Seth Rollins, halfway through, or three-quarters of the way through, it's towards the end, it was like a big crescendo, curb stomped a giant enemy crab. Now, I like pirates. I'm sure there's some kind of pirate movie that has a giant enemy crab, but the only thing I could think of was Genji Days of the Blade, a release title for the PlayStation 3. That's like a meme. You can go watch that meme right now when they're playing it, and talking about how it's based on history, and there's a giant enemy crab. It's one of the best YouTube clips ever. But I just want to applaud WWE mainly because that opening video package, whether you liked it or not, at least it was tongue-in-cheek and light-hearted, and they had a bit of fun with it. I massively respected that. I thought, oh, nice, you're sort of poking fun at yourself. I think self-awareness and self-deprecation, it always goes a long way with me. And then I saw Seth Rollins curb stomp a giant enemy crab. And let's not joke around. Seth Rollins would not beat a giant crab with a curb stomp. You'd need at least a gun or some kind of weapon. But I just thought, given the situation that we found ourselves in, and that in many ways WrestleMania 36 probably shouldn't have gone on when where we were a few weeks ago, whoever thought this would happen? And it was nice, and it gave me levity, and it put a smile on my face. And from that second, I know we had the pre-show, but let's treat it as one of the first things that we saw. I settled down. I was like, you know what? We're all going to have a good time. We're all going to have fun. We're all going to have a good time, and we're going to put smiles on people's faces, which is what Vince McMahon always talks about doing. So well done, Vince McMahon. Well done, Seth Rollins. And Giant Enemy Crab, if you could get in touch with the comments and let me know how you recovered, that would be great. Number 9 is Kevin Owens diving off the sign. Obviously, people are talking about this one too, but we are not talking about it enough, and that's mostly because of the Firefly Funhouse match and the Boneyard match. Those two cinematic pieces of brilliance have probably quite rightfully stolen away from other things that happened. But, I mean, there's so much to the Kevin Owens stuff as well. Like, he did a tweet or an interview or something where he said when he went down to Raymond James Stadium for an event, he saw the pirate ship they have in the venue and straight away thought to himself, well, I'm going to find a way to jump off that, because Kevin Owens is clearly, I mean, he's amazing, also clearly crazy. And when it gets reduced to the Performance Center and he finds out they're going to bring the sign into the building, he's like, well, I'll just jump off that instead. And obviously it was pre-recorded WrestleMania, so for a lot of the big bumps, they put down crash mats and just edit him out afterwards, which I'm perfectly okay with. Let's protect people as much as we can. But when you watch that elbow drop, obviously through Seth Rollins, who was lying on a table, from that distant camera point that they have, that is a majestic move, man. I mean, probably the most spectacular thing we saw over the both days. And that was with that ladder match, which was also unbelievable when John Morrison did that tightrope walk. But yeah, it's one of those things when I sat down, I was like, man, at the time everyone went crazy, but now I feel like we need to again start drumming it up again, because it was just, what a mad thing to do. Incredible, but what a mad thing to do. And it tied into the finish, which I always appreciate. Sometimes you see these massive, crazy moves and they don't even lead to the end of the match. So yeah, Kevin Owens, massive shout out to you. I love the fact that you won. I hope you get the biggest push of all time, but I still can't believe it. I think my reaction was, what? Number 8 is that Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley was a decent match. No, that's underselling it. It was a damn good match. And you could probably argue, if not one of the best matches of both shows. And I mean that. And again, we lost focus on this, and I was one of them too, because I just didn't agree with Charlotte Flair winning. I like Charlotte Flair. I don't tie into this online hate campaign against her. I think it's a little bit crazy. And ultimately, it's pro wrestling. You do whatever the hell you want. But I felt like Rhea Ripley was in such a good position to break through and maybe become WWE's next big star, that kind of reverting to course and making Charlotte the NXT Women's Champion, it just left me a little bit flat, which was such a shame, because the match was so well worked. A nice simple story with Charlotte working over Rhea Ripley's knee or leg, which made perfect sense because their finishing move is a figure 4 or figure 8, depending which one she wants to do. I really loved it. I really loved it to the point I think I'll go and watch it again. It would have been obviously served so much better if they had a crowd. But outside maybe Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn, when we're talking about singles matches, I can't think of anybody else who went out there and adapted to the environment as well as those two. It was really, 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 really damn good. And yeah, that's kind of what this video is. It's about talking about the unsung heroes of WrestleMania. And they didn't decide who wins and loses. That's decided by somebody else. So they went out there and they did exactly what they had to do. And I think they smashed it. Number 7 is that Drew McIntyre is the first ever UK WWE champion. Now, over here in the UK, that's massive news. But America, I think you should jump on the boat as well. It's incredible that he's become WWE champion to begin with, if you know his story. Like, I was standing in the ring with him when he was working for WCPW or Defiant, I can't remember which one it was called at the time, in a tiny venue in Manchester when he was the WCW, it would have been WCPW, when he was the WCPW champion. Lovely guy, so tall, it's ridiculous. We had a very, very nice chat, a very, very approachable, and like I say, mild-mannered dude. And to think that's probably like 2016, 4 years later, just shy, I'd probably imagine. He is, yeah, you know, he's the WWE champion. Again, the first ever UK-born WWE champion. It doesn't matter that he didn't win it in front of fans. Obviously, that would have been 1,000 times better. But nobody could ever take that accolade away from him. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever. We'll forget about all of the madness surrounding these last couple of days soon. But when you look in the history books, the record books that don't actually exist, Drew McIntyre's name will always be there. And I can't find one person that's against it, which sums up Drew McIntyre and sums up the kind of, I guess, the legacy that he has left. Good dude, good wrestler, good all round. Number 6, tying into one that we just mentioned, was Drew Gulak versus Cesaro. It may have just been a pre-show match on the Saturday. Smashed it. It was awesome. If they had been given 5 more minutes, this would have been a technical masterclass. When Drew Gulak jumped off the top rope and Cesaro just gave him that big uppercut, did I react to that? So just a mini shout out to those two guys. I'm glad they got on the card in some sense. Great way to kick things off. Cesaro can just do no wrong in my eyes. In terms of in-ring ability, I mean, try and find... There are obviously people that are really, really good too. I'm not saying that he's better or worse than anyone, but he is in there in his own amazing league in terms of how he works. So, again, pre-show matches always fall foul to that. We remember what happened the New Day before Survivor Series or on Survivor Series. But yeah, just shout out to Drew Gulak and Cesaro. Number 5, we don't need to go into the Boneyard match and how much I loved it. Go to What Culture Wrestling right now. You can see my video where I just gush over it. But The Undertaker came out to Metallica. That's almost like a footnote when people talk about it. But how badass is that? I know it was a new Metallica song, which means, you can be... I don't care, man. It was Now That We're Dead, obviously, off Hardwired. I would have chosen something different. I would have come in to spit out the bone. Who cares? The fact Undertaker's done this before with For Whom the Bell Tolls, I think. Or Triple H came out to one too, sadly. I can't remember that, but he's done it before. And it's kind of a bit weird. He didn't come out to the Johnny Cash grave thingy bob that he used ages ago. I can't remember what it's called now. But I was... at the time, adjusting to the Boneyard match and what I was going to take from it. I thought to myself, you're going to love this, which I did. But as soon as I had Metallica there, who I'm obsessed with, if you don't know, I bought in. Hook, line, and sinker. So that was really smart. I imagine Undertaker is a massive Metallica fan. Metallica tweeted out about WrestleMania. It was like, all my worlds coming together, and I was very pleased. Number 4 is Jimmy Uso Smack Talk, and I'm 100% behind this one. Jimmy Uso, and we'll put Bayley in there as well. Obviously, some wrestlers are just very confident about being loud, even though they're in a silent arena. And some of the stuff Jimmy Uso was saying to John Morrison and Kofi Kingston was excellent. Bayley saying, just yelling at Naomi for dancing all the time, I thought was great. I mean, Kevin Owens doesn't get in here because I knew that Kevin Owens would be good at that. And I think really when I take a step back, I'm not surprised that Jimmy Uso would be too. But it got in my head and it's certainly something that I flashed up. And it was the same with Bayley too. That is one of the pluses of these empty arena shows for me. It's not enough to make up for not having fans there. I always rather have fans there. But I enjoy, I guess, getting a smidgen more personality from the wrestlers. Number 3, I mentioned it earlier. I'll just mention it again here now because now I've thought about it. It's not fair to not put it here. John Morrison walking the top rope. And again, I saw some people going, well, it's pre-recorded. He probably tried 100 times. I don't care if he tried 105 times. I don't care if it took him 142 attempts and it was on attempt 143 that he nailed it. You often see people walk the top rope, but usually they're assisted with someone else holding their hand, like The Undertaker used to do. John Morrison, who as far as I'm aware is not a circus performer, was able to do that, is incredible. He surely has a bigger singles run in him because he can do things other people can't. Fair play job. I mean, look at me. I just blew my mind. Number 2 is how short both nights were. I'm not 100% made up mind-wise whether I would want a weekend worth of WrestleMania every single year, because I think I preferred night 1 from night 2 just because it's night 1, I'm excited and the anticipation's higher, and I do think it delivered more than night 2. But 3.5 hours on Saturday and 3.5 hours on Sunday is so much more palatable and easy to digest than 7 hours all at once. I mean, in a dream world, WWE would just do it on Sunday night and not have it surpass 4 or 4.5. But it was just great. It flew by. It's like you blink and you missed it almost, and it almost left you wanting more. So that to me was an absolute definite plus. And I don't know how much. I mean, the things that WWE should take away is less is more sometimes. Cinematic productions are okay, and empty arena promos or intense down the camera promos is something that you should do going forward. All these things will benefit your product. But yeah, please just don't go back to 7-hour shows. I was at the last year's WrestleMania, and I'm so privileged to be there. But by the time Becky Lynch was coming out, my brain was like, Simon, please sleep. Please sleep. You've been watching this for so long. Nobody can enjoy anything for 7 hours. And I've made this joke before, but it's true. There's always one guy that goes, I could have sex for 7 hours. No, you couldn't. Your penis will be red raw by the end of it. You'll be in so much pain, and you'll definitely regret having sex for 7 hours. You probably would rather watch WrestleMania 35. And number one kind of ties into that too. And obviously the title of this is Awesome Things. And sometimes an awesome thing can be having a list and crossing something off that list because you're like, you know what? That doesn't work, or that's not something we need to try again. So if this has kind of scratched WWE's itch for doing 2-night WrestleManias, which has been talked about for ages. I remember at the end of WrestleMania 35, that was the rumor. Oh, next year they're going to do it. And Wrestle Kingdom took the first step, so I'm sure that probably gave WWE some confidence too. But I think hopefully what we have learned from this, I am kind of doubling up, I've just realized, is that let's keep it to one night. Let's keep it to Sunday, especially because what if you get a boxing match or an MMA fight on the Saturday? That's just going to piss everybody off. Let's keep it to Sunday, but let's just keep it short, and that'll be awesome. Then we would have learned, then we would have grown, then we would have evolved, and 100% that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have all the madness that is going on now. And that, is why it's awesome. And that's it. That's just some little WrestleMania things that I wanted to talk about because nobody else will. And as the days go by, we'll all forget about it because that's what happens. Raw will happen, and then AEW will happen, and it will be as if WrestleMania didn't even exist. If you have enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button too, because YouTube loves engagement. I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Simon316. And obviously this is a podcast usually, which you can get on podcast feeds. And if you subscribe to the Patreon, you can also come on the show. So please do check that out. Mostly though, I hope you enjoyed WrestleMania. Keep enjoying the madness. I know we're all locked in, but we'll be okay. And I'll see ya when I see ya. Well, that's gibberish. And if you are watching this on Monday, 2 p.m. No, 1 p.m. GMT. Tuesdays, every Tuesday here live on the YouTube channel. Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show. Then we can have a real chat.